Good evening and welcome to this discussion on access to clean water and sanitation issues in Kampala. My name is Charles Mwangushampagi. During the COVID-19 outbreak, one of the issues that haven't been paid a lot of attention, have been talked about, is the question of the centrality of water, sanitation and hygiene issues. The organizations that have, since the outbreak of the pandemic, been focused on raising discussion about this issue, dealing with communities, dealing with authority bearers on the question of water and sanitation, given its centrality in as a major standard operating procedure to prevent the spread of COVID-19. We know that access to clean water, clean sanitation and hygiene have always been critical issues, especially for communities that live in urban areas as well as those in rural areas, though the dynamics are different. I have with me three reports here. One is mapping of water tariff issues in Kampala City, a study report done by Community Integrated Development Initiatives. I have another one also done by the same organization, mapping study for evidence gathering and development of fact sheets on water, sanitation, hygiene, budget allocation in Kampala. We also have another one examining the Kampala Capital City Authority planning, budget and monitoring for WASH. We will be getting into this as we discuss, is budgeting and planning for Kampala City supportive of the proper centered service delivery, the water and hygiene subsector? Let me introduce the guests that I have in studio this evening. The extreme end from Community Integrated Development Initiatives, CD, Deputy ED, Helen Kasoja. Very nice to have you, Helen.
Nice to be around, Charles.
I remember we had a discussion, but it was on Zoom.
Yes.
I think in May.
Yes.
To discuss exactly issues around WASH,
yeah,
water, hygiene and sanitation.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you.
I
have Omulodi, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, Elias Lukwago.
Thank you.
Omulodi, very nice to have you here.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I have from the National Water and Sewerage Corporation, the organization responsible for guaranteeing quality of the water distribution in Kampala and around the country. I have Ronald Chitakufe, Manager, Urban Propua Branch of National Water and Sewerage Corporation. Very nice to have you,
Thank you.
Ronald.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I want to start with you, Helen. You've invested a lot of your time focusing on these issues, and WASH has been dear to you and as a person and the organization. Could you give us a snapshot of what the situation is? What is it we are dealing with, especially during COVID, for access to water, clean water, within the communities that are vulnerable, especially in Kampala?
Thank you, Charles. Indeed, the issue of water, sanitation and hygiene is central to the work of CD. But also, if you look at globally, issues of access to water, sanitation and hygiene are very dire. You have over 2 billion people worldwide that don't have access to safe drinking water. And in Uganda, you also have almost 50% of the population not having access to safe water. About 22 million Ugandans don't have access to safe water. Then in the city of Kampala, you also have almost 50% of the people still accessing water from unsafe sources that have been condemned. The issue of sanitation moves with water, because if people don't have access to water, then they can't practice good sanitation and good behavior. But also you have to know that WASH is central to aspects like food, aspects like energy, because if you talk about water, then you must talk about energy. Then you also have issues about health. We can't talk about good health outcomes. I think the COVID situation has brought to light the importance of hand washing, for instance. For years and years, we've been trying to tell people about the importance of hand washing and how it affects health outcomes. If you look at children under 5, part of the stunting is caused by diarrhea. That diarrhea has linkages with hand washing, that mothers and caretakers don't wash their hands properly at the critical times. So the issue of WASH is very central for everything. that we talk about when we are talking about improving livelihoods of people. So as CD, that's why it's very critical for us. Yes.
Do you have a particular call to action during this period? Because, yes, issues of wash broadly are important. You've articulated that and you always do that. During this, it has been highlighted. People need to wash their hands. So we found containers put almost in every corner. Some of them have posters of candidates vying for one thing or the other. Everybody was running around to give those. But
I'm sure you have not seen mine.
I have seen some of other actors in the political field. but it's been central. And one question you're asking, what type of water is in this container?
Yes.
Who replaces when it runs out?
Yes.
Who pays the price
Yes.
for this water?
Yes.
Or someone put a container there and walked away?
Yeah.
The other day, I think there was circulating on WhatsApp an image of a man, of course a destitute, washing his face from the basin of dirty water, the dish that collects the dirty water from that hand wash machine placed at some point. Do you have a particular call for action as CD?
I think one of the biggest call we have is that as a nation, we need to prioritize planning for water, sanitation and hygiene in a systematic manner. I appreciate that we have tried to do a lot of things in terms of policy processes. We have huge policies, the practice, the funding. We need to invest. We need to invest as a country in water, because investments in wash give better returns. You have productivity. People are not kept out of work because they are sick, or women are not kept out of the workplace because they are taking care of sick kids or sick family members. So the benefits that arise out of investing in wash are enormous. Studies have been done around the world where it has been proven that if you invest just $1 like this in wash, the return's about $4.5. So it's a worthwhile investment. And if you're giving food, talking about giving food, then you should also make sure that people have water. Because if they don't have water, then the food will not be utilized very well.
Okay.
Yes.
Ronald, let me jump to you before I go back to the Lord Mayor. Many people dealing with water would think it's a simple thing. You work on a project, Urban Propua Branch.
Yes.
You could just begin by explaining what that means.
Thank you. Urban Propua, specifically urban means town, which is not rural, and urban places have certain characteristics. One of them is high population density. So there are more people in a small area compared to the rural places. That is now urban. Then poor, in the word poor, some people don't like it, but it's the best description for the situation. Somebody who is living below the average means. And he has an international definition. So when we say pro-poor, it's like we are supporting the poor people to get the water and the sanitation in the urban places. So that's what that is all about, urban pro-poor. So we support them to get the water affordably in the urban places, because they are low-income earners, and yet they cannot easily get it compared to the other people who can afford it.
Please explain that to me a little bit better. What exactly, how does that happen? Because I know you have these water stands,
Yes.
and individuals man those water stands.
Yeah.
If you look at the amount of money they pay to get a jerrycan of water compared to someone who is just turning it off their tap, is there a difference there? What exactly do you?
Yes, there is a difference. We serve these poor people using 3 methods. Number one, we have what we call the public standpoint. Now, this is a tap which is put there and given a special tariff, which is lower compared to the domestic tariff and the commercial tariff. And for the current price at that public standpoint is 25 shillings per 20-litre jerrycan. When you compare that with the domestic tariff, which is 83 shillings per 20-litre jerrycan, we are giving this poor person water at a very affordable rate because we know they can't afford much. Now, the public standpoint is manned by somebody, and we normally try to regulate how much that person sells. So we normally recommend, our recommendation is 50 shillings at least. You get a small markup and give the people water. But some of them sometimes sell higher. So we came up with what we call the prepaid meter. Now, at a prepaid meter, it is a community prepaid meter. The person has an access token, that poor person, and he can access the water at 25 shillings per 20 litre jerrycan. So there, it eliminates the middleman. We have them, though the numbers are not very many compared to the demand. However, we are working on it to improve them.
Omlodi,
Yes.
how's the situation in your city?
Well, from a policy maker's point of view, we have a dire situation. But before I delve into the details of what is obtaining on the ground in the city, permit me to first extend my sincere thanks to CD, to DGF, and all other development partners who have offered us a platform to articulate these issues and to have this discourse. Of course, in partnership with NTV and other development partners. We thank you very much. Coming back to the issue of the wash situation in Kampala, it's dire. Helen here has just told you about 50% of Kampalans have access to what you would call clean water, but not necessarily clean. Many Ugandans, many people in Kampala, especially in the informal settlements, they are still using unsafe water. And we are talking about achieving SDGs, particularly SDG 6 by 2030. And I think we are just a decade away to the deadline. And we are saying by that time, 2030, all Ugandans will have access to clean water and sanitation. To me, it could be a pipe dream. I don't want to dampen your vigor and spirit to fight for better services, but I think it's a far cry. It is going by what is happening here. If I can give you a few statistics on some of these key highlights, issues. Like access to safe water, for example, roughly 50%. But then you will come to things like sanitation, for example. How many people are connected to the national sewer line here in Kampala? Statistics indicate there are only 80%. 80% who are connected to the national sewer line. Majority of the people, the homesteads in Kampala rely on on-site sanitation facilities. And actually that's where our efforts are geared to. That's where we focus our attention. Actually, our mandate as KCCA is largely restricted to on-site sanitation facilities. The other aspect is for national water.
Could you explain this better? Because you talk about connection to the national sewer line and on-site sanitation facilities. Could you explain to our viewer what exactly that means? You said that's where your mandate is restricted. What are you talking about?
Well, National Water and Sewage Corporation have got a mandate to roll out sanitation facilities, sewer lines, for all the people countrywide. Right now, I think we have 2 treatment centers here in Bugorobi and Lubiji, Namungona there, here in Kampala. And the people who are connected directly to the national sewer line, whereby you have refuse, fecal sludge directly going to the treatment center, are only 8%. 8%. The rest have pit latrines or what you call septic tanks. Those are the on-site sanitation facilities when it comes to fecal sludge. So that's a very appalling situation. doesn't portend good for a city which prides in that vision and mission of having a vibrant, attractive, and sustainable city by 2030. I'll give you again another disturbing statistic on this particular matter. When you talk about people who have got even access to pit latrine, because we still have this problem of open defecation in this 21st century. We have about 1.8 people, or rather homesteads in Kampala, who have got no pit latrines at all.
In this country of 11 cities,
Yes, who have no pit latrine at all.
11.8.
Yes, 1.8.
1.8.
1.8. But even these ones who have pit latrines, they are 84% who have pit latrines. But even those who have pit latrines, they are not of the required standard. We have tried and endeavored as KCCA to come up with measures of bringing them up to standard. We enacted a superintendent of a process that came up with an ordinance to regulate pit latrines in Kampala, fecal sludge management ordinance, on how to come up with the standards on the pit latrines. We need to construct the piped one, the lined ones, which can easily be emptied, and so on and so forth. Even the capacity to empty them is limited. We are reviewing our budget performance for the last financial year, and we discovered that as a city, we collected 222,000 cubic meters of fecal sludge. 222,000 cubic meters of fecal sludge from all these facilities we are talking about, septic tanks, pit latrines. But KC's contribution is only 13%. The rest is done by private cesspool emptiers, private companies. Those you see along Wangkok, Portobello Road and what. Private. Many of ours, the fleet is totally broken down. Actually, we have very, very few cesspool emptiers, those trucks. Very, very few. Majority
are grounded.
When it comes to solid waste management, for example, we generate roughly 2 tons a month. No, rather a day.
2 tons a day, I think.
2 tons a day. But what is collected, according to the statistics presented to KCCA, to us, the policymakers, is 58%.
So
42% remains within the communities. It is uncollected. And even what is collected is just dumped at our site in Chitezi. The best we can do, there is that leachate treatment, and that is all. We have not recycled it into any other byproduct. We have tried to come up with some humble ways of recycling garbage. We have our unit in, our unit in Bugorobi, that youth center, where we are trying to come up with a project to support briquette production of briquettes out of this and whatnot, with the support of the donor community. So wherein lies the problem? This is what I wanted to stress. The point I wanted to emphasize here. Wherein lies the problem? We have relegated issues of sanitation to, I'm sorry to say this, to the donor community support. There is very little budget support, very limited support from the national coffers.
Why? You run your own budget as KCCA. You
No.
do, as the political wing, you do the appropriation for this budget. So let's go by numbers. You're emphasizing the point and say you have relegated this. What can you paint for us that picture of planning and budgeting processes within KCCA to deal with this particular problem, which we paint in very, very graphic terms?
Yeah, we have broadly speaking, we have a problem with the budgeting system. It's skewed in favor of recurrent expenditure. The bulk of our budget, at least from our own sources, is recurrent expenditure. It's not development expenditure. And this is where we are putting a lot of emphasis. The struggle, some of us have put a lot of struggle into that, efforts into that, to realign the budget to our vision and the mission and the development agenda. It's not that easy though. You have, for example, our collection, local revenue, is roughly 100 billion.
Annually?
Annually, roughly 100 billion. But it's swallowed up into the wage bill largely.
So recurrent expenditure means money spent on sustaining, on paying people
Day-to-day
wages,
running
day-to-day
of the
running
institution,
of the institution.
largely administrative costs of the institution.
How much are you allocating to these critical issues? I mean, if you're
It's
doing
largely donor funded, and this way I have, this is the reason I was extending my,
your submission.
yes, I was saying it's largely donor funded. And I'm extremely grateful to the development partners who have supported us. If I can mention Bill and Melinda Gates, if you've looked at that good program, we are talking about citywide inclusive sanitation project. It's Bill and Melinda Gates, that interagency platform, which brings us together as different agencies in this particular area, in this particular sector of WASH. It's largely Bill, Melinda Gates, Water Aid. They have really supported us. Even these standpipes you see in schools, we have that project, sanitation for millions. It's largely GIZ supporting that. For the standpipe we were put in schools, and those waterborne toilets and whatnot, largely GIZ, AFWA, Africa Water Association. I've mentioned Water Aid, I've mentioned the Bill and Melinda Gates, I've mentioned a couple of others. These are the donors who are really bankrolling largely the programs of WASH, and it's really very, very unfortunate.
Let me stay with you on that issue, because it's an issue of great concern, I think, to many people. What does that say about the planning side? Because there is the budgeting side, the money is not enough. Then there's the planning side. How high in your priorities does this sector fall? If Bill and Melinda Gates, Water Aid, AFWA, the Africa Water and
Water,
yes. If these were to pull out, where would that leave a city like Kampala?
Oh, I wouldn't even want to imagine about that. Because when it comes to funding, without the donor support, you'll just see stench here in Kampala. We have done our part in terms of, because we're asking about planning. There are a number of plans we have come up with. In the area, for example, of sanitation, I've mentioned the fecal sludge management ordinance. That rolls out to the standards which must be enforced by KCCA. We have come up with urban sanitation strategic plan. It's a huge document like this. It's all about improving sanitation standards in Kampala. We have even created a framework for the leadership in Kampala, where actually I was elected the president of WASH in the Kampala and metropolitan area. It's a platform of all local leaders within Kampala metropolitan, because it's a planning area when it comes to WASH. Mukono, Mpigi, Wachiso, and Kampala. All the mayors of the local authorities, urban authorities, they are part of that particular platform where I was elected the president, and the Nasana municipality mayor, Bachite, is the deputy. That platform is also there. We have executed a memorandum of understanding, and we have rolled out plans. We have international instruments like the Ngo Declaration. Last year I was in Cape Town, where we came up with the Cape Town Declaration on improvement of WASH within our area of jurisdiction. When it comes to solid waste management, we have an ordinance in place. We have improved on all those areas. We also have a plan to construct a treatment center. No, actually, no, a landfill. Because right now, Chitezi is no longer sustainable. It's full up to capacity. So we want to extend a to have a recycling plant at Dundu in Mukono. All that requires money. We have presented our budget to KCC, to government, but to no avail. We will due respect to no avail. Last year, for example, this financial year, I'm sorry to mention this, we mapped out areas which require serious intervention when it comes to collection of garbage directed by KCC. Because of financial constraint, we decided to divest this function to get concessionaires. We executed the concession agreements with the private companies to do this work. But we said there are those who cannot afford. What do we do? Then we said in slum areas, those Ronald was talking about, those poor people need direct services from KCC.
That's why I wanted to go back to...
No, I wanted to conclude this.
Yes.
Then we asked the technical staff to assess the capacity we need to do that. He said we need like 60 refugee trucks, self-loading, like 60. Each one is in the, it costs about, they told us it costs about 800 million Uganda shillings. But currently what we have 26, which for all intents and purposes are not even roadworthy.
You have how many?
26.
26.
Which are not roadworthy. They are
How
constantly breaking down.
How many are roadworthy out of those 26?
They are 12.
12.
And we are talking about collecting garbage in almost all the slum areas we have here in Kampala.
I wanted to run back to Helen, because which particular communities are we dealing with here? The Lord Mayor was emphasizing on on-site sanitation facilities, an ordinance on pit latrines. But if you got some of these Kampala slums, even achieving a pit latrine itself, before you go to its standard, is difficult. To have a shed where someone can hide their body as they perform that natural function, is one thing. You have these ones that are in high rise, not because they're supposed to be in Kalina, but because the water table is very low. So if they dug a little, they would get into the water. And there's a link between this, because if these on-site facilities contaminate the water sources, there's a pit latrine here, there's a child collecting water at the very next point. I think Monitor ran a picture this week of a child trying to drink water out of a drain pipe in one of these Kampala slums. The language the Lord Mayor is talking about, does it really address government planning and government effectiveness in dealing with this and prioritizing the question of wash in this town?
Yes, speaking just to that, to actually amplify what the Lord Mayor is talking about. When we talk about sanitation, there's what we call improved sanitation. And in that we mean, first of all, the toilets must be to standard, where somebody can be dignified, but also fecal matter should not come into contact with a person. So when it comes to that, actually within the informal settlements of Kampala, the percentage drops from 50 to 24%. Just a quarter, near a quarter, have access to improved sanitation. What does that mean to the situation you're describing? That means that all the fecal matter that comes from these sanitary facilities goes into the water, okay? And that's why the water sources in Kampala have been condemned. All of them, they are contaminated with fecal matter. All the water sources, all the open water sources in Kampala have been condemned. So if you go to a spring well, you see people taking water from a spring well, just know they are taking water with fecal matter. That's how bad it is. So largely, it speaks to a lot of things. If you look at the land tenure system, if you look at the physical planning in itself, because even when we are talking about emptyable toilets, we have issues with accessing these toilets because the roads are not accessible. And we are talking about people who live in a very dire situation. And as government, as this country, we need to prioritize them. Why do we need to prioritize them? First of all, Kampala, over which the Lord oversees, is one of the fastest growing cities in the world. Okay, I think we come to about number 13 in the world in terms of growth.
And growing very organically.
Yes. So meaning we need to plan because young people are coming to the city. So if they are coming to the city, where do they go? They go to Wise to start a life. They go to Chinawata. They will go to Kosovo. Okay? They will go to Chigaga. Those Chigaga zones that you hear about. So we need to plan as a city, as stakeholders within the city, and not just plan, but also invest, like the Lord Mayor has said. The city of Kampala, in terms of budgeting, I think has not been prioritized. I think the Mayor has not even elaborated that during this year, I think his budget for the city was cut to almost 50%, because they had about 500 billion the previous year, and this financial year they were working with about 324 billion. And when you take this to the urban councils, or call them the divisions, then it's even worse. Then we also have issues in the way the whole interpretation of the Kampala, the KCCA Act, and how it's being managed. So you have a lot of issues that you really have to unlock to be able to address the issue of water, sanitation, and hygiene in the city. And it requires, one, there needs to be a steward. There must be a steward for the city, and there must be stewards for water, sanitation, and hygiene. And government can't do it alone. We need to bring other stakeholders. We need to bring the private sector on board. You talked about technologies, the hand washing facilities that are all over the city. Some of them have already broken down. Okay, so we need to standardize the technologies. We need to address issues of operation and maintenance. Okay, you have situations where now local leaders are struggling with the hand washing facilities. They have the water, they have the tank, they can't pay for the water, for instance, so they can't get the water. If they get the water from national water and it's still free, the question is, after the COVID break happens, what happens? How do they pay? After the soap that CD gave and World Vision gave, what happens?
What happens after that?
Yes. So we have critical issues that we have to deal with. And yet we are talking about the poor people that live in these informal settlements.
Let me start, actually, I'll break the rules a little bit here and start with the non-poor.
Yes.
Can I want the people in this studio here, including myself, can we go back to our homes or walk out of this studio, go into the to the sink, open the tap, put a glass and drink that water safely that you supply?
Yes. Yes, but with caution.
What's the caution?
The caution is, most of our customers, we have overhead tanks. And we let this water first go to the overhead tank, then it is supplied maybe to our house. So we cannot guarantee the cleanliness of your overhead tank. But if it is directly from our pipe, we guarantee that is safe.
Okay. Yes. I'll let that sink in a little bit. People share different experiences, even those who don't have overhead tanks. And I wonder what, because I have had explanations, including the pipes that bring the water in. If a pipe was cut at some point because of road construction, then what kind of water it delivers even before it gets to the overhead tank. We'll go into that later. But the question I wanted to put, the statistic of 8% connected to the national sewer grid. Could you explain? Could you tell me what that? I just can't get my head around this.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, the Lord Mayor has told you that statistic is for Kampala. National Water is mandated to supply water and sewerage, and that's why it gets the name. National Water and Sewerage. Sewerage means piped sewer. piped sewage treatment. So in Kampala, it is 8%. But of recent, we have done a project where we have upgraded and expanded the network. But now, you expand the main network, but connections keep coming gradually. So the connections are increasing, and very soon we shall be at 11%. So, and we have projects which are ongoing. Currently, one of the issues why the percentage is low, sewer investment is much more high compared to water. And yet, when you look at WASH, that is water, sanitation and health, when you look at it, water is the main component. So if you don't have water, you cannot have good sanitation.
But you know, Helen gave us a very dire statistic of the cleanliness of water from open water sources. Because I think, I don't know who superintends over the standard of these on-site sanitation facilities, leave alone the pit latrines and the ordinance on those pit latrines. Who determines that this is the right standard for a septic tank in someone's compound? You have all these apartment blocks coming up with so many families, all connected, not to the national sewer line, but with on-site.
Well, when it comes to non-sewer facilities, it's largely our mandate. Theirs is the sewer services.
Okay.
Ours on-site, non-sewer. And that ordinance is comprehensive enough. It provides for the standards required when you are constructing the septic tank. We have put even the depth shouldn't go beyond 9 feet deep, because and even the frequencies of emptying it, there are those who wait for 10 years. There are those who fail completely to adhere to the standards.
There are those who have never emptied theirs.
Who have never emptied theirs. So this is dangerous. And also even those private service providers, we are now bringing them under control to regulate them. The standard is required. The point Helen here raised here, you as a human being, you shouldn't be in contact at all with the fecal material. You shouldn't. Even those who are emptying it, they shouldn't be in contact with the fecal material because it is dangerous. Even the way they transport it, it's an absurdity, and I think he has not come out proper on this issue. And I want the MD of National Water and Sewage Corporation to come out and tell us. Let me tell you, in as much as we're constructing these treatment plants, he said an absurdity in the 21st century to see tracts failing fecal sludge. Let us not even sanitize it. Transporting feces on the roads as if you're transporting water or petroleum. No. It's totally unacceptable. So to say that within a short time we are going to increase to 11, we have a target. We have SDG 6. It talks of 2030. So at that snail pace, from 8 to 11, when shall we realize 100%? How many years are those? How many decades? It could be centuries. This is very, very absurd. Even what you are talking about wouldn't arise. Those elevated pit latrines in swamp in swamp areas.
You've seen them?
I've seen them.
Yes.
We have even provided standards for them because we have no choice. Because we're asking who is responsible. We are the regulatory agents when it comes to standards. We are the ones to regulate that. But enforceability becomes a problem when there is a necessity. It's a necessity.
Yeah, that's the question.
People consuming, people using contaminated water, which has been condemned in Kampala. But it's out of necessity. Let me give you this example. Before I even came here,
yes,
I was working with the community within my village, Bulwa zone here, to construct the spring well you are talking about. It broke down. It was the AFD, the French Development Agency. Can you imagine the French Development Agency assisting us to construct a spring well? It has now totally collapsed. we have no capacity to handle it. I have to dig into my pocket to do it. But I know people are going to drink unsafe water.
But
That is the irony.
Lord Mayor, who is the responsibility bearer in this case? It can't be Helen,
No,
surely.
no.
Helen and team are helping to address the issue and pointing out this.
To shine a torch on these issues, and it's important.
If you look at the detail in these reports, because of time I can't go into them and we discuss from them, the situation you said is dire, is actually, I wish we could find another word to describe it, but we leave it, we see it, we move through these, these neighborhoods. So where does this responsibility lie? And I want to tell our viewer that we will be opening our phone lines so that people can call in and engage on this issue. People who are living these experiences, and in both places,
Let us face it squarely, head on. It's important. The critical element missing here is financing. I've told you we have all the plans. I will show you, for example, I carried this architecture design for the kind of pit latrines we want. These are the pit latrines we want. This is what we have designed for Kampala.
Public toilets.
Yes? Public toilets. These are public toilets. Which we have designed, not pit, I'm sorry, not pit, the public toilets we want in Kampala. This is the standard. And the architecture designs
no, just hold it for a moment, because I think
you can see.
Technical person is trying to pull the picture.
You can see this with a business center, with all those other facilities, so that, you see, we maintain the standards required of a capital city. This is what we, and these are, you can see, government promised to finance, with all this, to finance this. At least they said, let's start with 71. Together with the National Water and Sewage Corporation, let us start with 71 in Kampala alone here. We were tasked to identify those hotspots, those places in dire need of these facilities. We did that. We did our mapping. We did the planning, submitted everything to government. Funding.
Who is government?
The central government.
The central government?
Yes, because KCC is an agency of the central government.
I thought as an authority you are self-accounting.
Yeah, but we are an agency of the central government. We manage the city for and on behalf of the central government.
Okay.
And our vote is directly from the central government. Even these divisions,
So
they don't have the independent.
Who in the central government?
Yes?
Who in the central government?
Who in the central government? It's a whole chain. Yeah, you have our line minister, because once we are done with our planning, we submit the same to the minister. The minister carries the forwards the same to cabinet. From cabinet, everything goes to parliament. And this is what needs to be done. When it comes to the national sewer line, for example, let us not beat around the bush, honestly speaking. There's no excuse why we have not rolled out the national sewer line, at least for the capital city.
Okay, let me pick a caller. Hello? 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 I think we lost that one. Let's pick another if we have. If we don't, we need to continue with the discussion here. The mayor says there's no. Hello. 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 Yes, are you talking to us?
Thank you very much for that program.
Sure. Thanks.
I want to respond to the officer from the National Water and Sewage Corporation.
So your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Dennis from Chiwatule.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to assure that honorable big man that the water we get from our taps here, you cannot take that water. Because, first of all, the amount of chlorine which comes with that water, the levels are so much high that cannot be tolerated within. Secondly, I would like to thank our Lord Mayor, because he is actually elaborating these points out very well. But I don't know when will these plans be implemented. The government is becoming so slow in putting the matters affecting people onto the front page. I don't know. These physical plans have been put in place, but how long will these plans be implemented?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do I have another caller? The big man from National Water.
I think I have yes.
Yes, you have a number of issues to respond, including from the mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
Let me take this call and then you respond at once. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from? Keep your question or comment brief.
Mr. Katumba Nasir.
Yes.
I thank my Lord Mayor to analyze things properly from Kawempe.
Mm.
Hello, I'm Mr.
Yes.
Katumba Nasir.
Mr. Katumba Nasib, we can hear you. Go ahead with your comment or question. Keep it brief.
Thank you, my Lord Mayor. I'm staying in Chirokoli, but you can't take that water. They are dicey, mavi nyonga jenkomi.
Okay. Thank you. We have another caller. Hello? 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 We lost that one. Hello? Yes, your name and where you're calling from?
Yeah, this is Calvin.
Yes, Calvin, go ahead. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chitende.
Chitende, go ahead with your question or comment.
My question goes to the national water personnel. They talk of coverage of the pipes and everything, and it increasing to 11%. But I'm actually questioning this because in areas such as Chitende, this area, you will have the pipes, you will have the taps there, you will have the pipes, you will have the water there, and then you will spend 3 months while getting no water at all. And they could give excuses of technical glitches and all that, but can a technical glitch happen in any?
Okay.
And you spend 3 months without water. This is actually a situation whereby they need to correct themselves. I need to work upon it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we need to come back to the studio briefly. And before I come, Ronald, you're going to respond to these questions. But I need us to link this to the budgeting. Because do you have issues of budget and resources at National Water that fails you from delivering?
Actually, my last submission, I was talking about that. I mentioned that sewer investment is many, many more times, much more compared to water. And yet water is the #1 requirement for sanitation. So we decided let us first improve water supply. Then as we improve the sewer, because the sewer requires a lot of investment and the payback period is high, and that's where really it needs support, like the Lord Mayor said. And most of these projects, we don't do them as national talon. We get funding from, we call them development partners. We also get funding from government. And the project is talking about where we are going to construct those public toilets. We are working with development partners, government of Uganda, KCCA, and partly National Water. So I think as a country, we still need support of development partners. So in terms of budgeting, even our budget, I think you know that. When we budget as a country, there is always something which comes from out. So I think we need the support. Maybe in future, we shall be able to move sustainably. But a lot is being done. For example, the public trails that are going to be done, I think somebody asked the question. Those ones are going to start, I think, early next year, because the project is being run together with the National Water. And in
We
the
are
same
behind
project,
schedule.
yeah, we are.
We are behind schedule.
But about next year. And in the same project, we are going to do a fecal sludge treatment plant in Inatete. Now, fecal sludge, you would ask why fecal sludge, why not a sewer? You have had the statistics, the highest percentage they are using on site sanitation. But then we need to treat what they empty. So we are doing this to make sure that at least we improve the sanitation. So that if you empty your septic tank, you empty your pit latrine, you safely dispose that waste somewhere. We are just in a transition.
Ronald, let me ask. Helen painted that picture for you in a city that is largely unplanned, is growing organically. And she pointed to some particular areas. Are the people of Kawempe, I don't know which people.
Chirokoli. He said the Chirokoli.
Chirokoli. Are they people coming to safe disposal at Luigi? If you do the one in, you said in Natete?
Yes.
In Natete, who actually are you targeting? Who's the client in this case? What on-site facilities are being emptied? and being delivered there? Because, well, people who can afford to build their own septic tank can afford to stay a distance from the fecal matter, apart from those who collect it. The ones, the sewer people who go to dispose of it, it may get in contact with it. But are you speaking to these vulnerable, the people, you said it's a bad word, poor, but that's the definition, that's the word that we use, the poor people of this city? Are they benefiting from it?
Exactly. This whole project is targeting those people because they are the majority. There was a research which was done, and the majority of the people in Kampala live in informal settlements. That is 60%.
Yeah.
So, and these are the places where these poor people are. Everybody knows.
So what's the design for getting
So,
this fecal
Can I
material
come
from
in to
there?
tell you where the problem is
Yes.
there now? The connectivity between the facility and the clients. That element is not factored into the plan. Because right now we have a problem as a KCCA. When it comes to collecting the fecal sludge, that effluent which ordinarily would go into the system and get treated from the treatment plant and then it ends up in the lake, we do not have money for that. And National Water and Sewage Corporation is not also responsible for that. Because it's you, the individual, who is responsible for getting that stuff from your pit latrine, from the
From your septic tank?
the septic tank and take it to the treatment center. And oftentimes you find people going into fundraising. A truck, a huge truck costs around 250,000. A medium one around 120,000. And you find many people can hardly afford this. And you'll have a treatment, because Natete and for example, is not very far away from Rubiji. There is already a treatment center in Rubiji. But not so many people can afford to have a truck empty their pit latrines and take the stuff to Rubiji. So the element of budgeting is critical, so that government puts in a lot of money to buy a fleet. For example, we do not have those trucks for us here in Kampala. We do not have them. As we wait for that sewer line to be rolled out to all the households in Kampala and countrywide, at least the trucks should be there. But those we have right now are in private hands. So what we are trying to do under this ordinance now is to set the standards and also bring them under control to regulate them. Because they have their own association.
But what kind of questions are you asking your ministers, KCCA?
What kind of questions?
Yes, are you asking your minister, who processes your budget?
Oh, we passed a resolution. We want our budget improved. Because we have all, because somebody was asking, when are you, because now we're talking about only one sector, WASH. Public, actually, we have not tackled the entire public health sector.
Yes.
We're just getting a small component of it, water and sanitation. But it's very broad. But underfunding is a problem. Helen here has told you the budget cuts. We are demanding for only 3% of the budget. Just we passed a resolution in a council I presided over myself, and said yes, 60% of the revenue that supports the entire budget in this country comes from Kampala. Yes. Why don't you return only 3%? Because Kampala is a gateway to the nation. This is the sitting room of Uganda. How can we have a stench in the sitting room? The city is choking on garbage right now. I've told you, we are even talking about fecal sludge, we are talking about water, but we are not even talking about garbage. You ask how many trips do we have here of this garbage?
I'm looking at the numbers you provided us.
Yes.
222,000 cubic meters
of fecal sludge.
No.
Yeah.
This is fecal sludge.
That is fecal sludge. And largely those trips are funded by, can you imagine development partners to fund transportation of feces? Bill and Melinda Gates. For us, that 222,000 cubic meters of feces collected and taken to the treatment center, the bulk of it is donor funds. Bill and Melinda Gates.
And the government goes to an international conference in New York and introduces, I'm the Lord Mayor of the city of Kampala in Uganda, and then you introduce, I'm accompanied, or maybe it's the other way around, the Honorable Minister of Kampala, in charge of Kampala Capital City Authority. This is the Minister of State in charge of Kampala Capital City Authority, and a whole list, a whole lineup of maybe accompanied by a council or two, then a whole lineup of technical people, and you're discussing.
And what we are begging for?
And you're producing 2 tons of solid waste.
Solid waste
per day.
Yes.
I don't know, and you're only able to collect
58%.
42% remains
42%
in the communities.
remaining.
42%
42% remains
and
there.
even this, you dispose it in an open area called Chitezi, that you stand on the other side of Chitezi. Land is very cheap because you're looking at the dumping site across it. Actually, the valley is no longer there. You used to dump it in a valley, now the valley is no longer there. It's been filled with.
So
with
all that needs fund. Do you know every year we spend 1.5 billion to maintain Chitezi? A minimum of 1.5 billion to maintain Chitezi. And we are saying, look, let's get our priorities right. We need a recycling plant. Why don't we work on that? And we have the plan, this is what I've told you, in Idundu. It's already there.
As far as I can remember, you've been talking about that recycling plant long before you became mayor. You've been mayor, and Uganda is still talking about a recycling plant. We've been talking about plans to use the garbage to produce power. We've talked about plans to produce whatever. When we stop talking and begin doing certain things?
That's why I was very grateful to CD for providing us a forum like this to make a good case for financing these projects.
Make the
and
case.
it's important.
To whom are you making that case?
To the
You can't
central
make it to
government. No, not to Helen. Helen has done her work, but to government, for example.
Who in government?
Who in the government have said our minister? And
You have to.
the minister who is responsible to, who has an obligation to defend our budget before cabinet. And also look at the priorities we have set ourselves. They are very, very clear. Very, very, very clear. I've said, let me tell you this other absurd thing. I've told you, even the gulpers, for example, these cesspool emptiers cannot access some of these slum areas because the pipes are short. So when they are going to empty them, they cannot reach there. So we have improvised by getting what they call gulpers.
What are gulpers?
Gulpers are just like pumps. Hand pumps. You just get them and begin pumping in a pit latrine. Manually. But these are very deep pit latrines. You find 6 feet deep. It's extremely difficult to get to pump and get the entire stuff out. So that's why we
You're
enforce
talking about 60 feet down.
Yes, 60 feet down. So that's why we are underway on the program.
Okay.
As Casey said,
our time is running out.
We came up with a NGO program to come up with those standards. But the point I was saying, even those gulpers, we have to beg water for people.
Okay.
It's a private company, organization.
This is a very interesting country to live in, and Ugandans to discuss. Quickly, Ronald, and then Helen will close us.
Yeah. Lord Mayor has talked about the same things, but now more. As National Water, we are trying, in this project, we are going to do what we call a pilot simplified sewer. Now, this is for the informal settlement. We are going to do a sewer system which is cheap. We want to test it and see.
It's called what?
Simplified sewer.
Okay.
So once it is successful, then we can roll out to these informal settlements and improve the sanitation.
I'm sorry to cut in because of time. You had a comment from Chiwature on the amount of
the quality of water.
The quality of the water, and then someone in Chitende who said 3 months, no water.
Yeah, for the one in Chiwature, Mr. Dennis, the chlorine is put to protect you. And if you want to drink this water, it is safe, but don't drink it direct from the tap using your mouth. The moment you put it in a cup, just like less than a minute, that chlorine is out and is okay. And it is put there to protect you. Actually, he has helped us to confirm that it is safe.
The water is safe.
The water is safe.
Chitende?
Now, the one of Chitende, we had some issues in the water treatment plant in Entebbe, but we have finished and we have improved. I think very soon they will be okay.
I have also been seeing a lot of complaints on social media from people of Nigeria area, I think Kira, complaining.
Nigeria, Kira, we have an issue, or mostly on the outskirts of our network, but we have the Katosi treatment plant, which is coming into force January.
Helen, Helen, I'm being told I have 20 seconds to get out of here.
Ooh, I wanted just to make a...
No. Let's first hear from Helen, and then we'll see if we can afford the time.
Yes.
Helen, your last word on this.
Our last word is that we want, first of all, to appreciate KCCA for trying to create an enabling environment by putting policies in place. I like the fact that the Lord Mayor is talking about that necessity is prohibiting enforcement, because one of the key issues we have in the city is lack of enforcement.
Okay.
But we want to call for investment in WASH generally in the country, but particularly in this city. It's actually a disgrace that this city has the WASH situation as it is.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, you said
Just a concession on the cost of water, because earlier on you mentioned that it's important, 50 shilling, and at times it goes as high as 200 shilling.
Even 300.
Even 300. As a stopgap measure, I think that's where you need to put emphasis to ensure that this goes down, so that water is treated as a utility rather than a commercial good.
Thank you very much. I think even for
Social
domestic
good,
users,
yeah.
Yes.
they're major concerns. Thank you very much, Helen Kasuja, Deputy ED at Community Integrated Development Initiatives, CIDI. Thank you very much, Chitakufe Ronald, Manager, Urban Propoa Branch of National Water and Sewage Corporation. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago, Lord Mayor of Kampala, Capital City Authority, for making this time to have this discussion. And we'll continue the discussion about WASH issues. I didn't know, Helen, until you gave those numbers that the situation is this bad. Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us this evening, and thank you very much to the production crew for delivering this show to all our viewers, and especially those of you who called in to share your comments. From Kawempe, we had someone from Kawempe, I think. Yes, and Chitende and Chiwatle. Thank you very much.